that don't know, he was a missionary up in the Northwest Territories for many, many, many moons. He comes out of the eastern side of USA, was in the US Navy for a while, done some amazing things underwater, and amazing things on the big rivers, floating boats and all kinds of stuff. So he's going to share with us for a few minutes what's on his heart, and we will be better off because of it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Last Sunday after the meeting, after the service, Pastor Ron came up to me and shook my hand and asked, can you share 5 minutes next Sunday? And I thought, well, I guess I could, but what would I share? And then I thought, I want to share something that's not in the book. And and then I just remembered, just before I shook hands with him, Jordan the B-Man was in the service, and he came up to me with a big smile on his face and shook my hand and said, I'm reading your book. And I thought, well, great. I hope you enjoyed the book. And so it made me think of something that I might talk about this morning. But I must say, it's not about us. It's about the Lord and right now, and what He's done in the past, what He wants to do in the future, and He wants us to be a part of His plan. And I will say that it was in 1960 that we came with NCEM, Northern Canada Evangelical Mission. And that mission had, at that time, 3 fields: the eastern field, the central field, and the western field. And yours truly was chosen after a few years to be the western field director. And at that time, when we took over that job, I believe there was between 40 and 50, I think almost 50 missionaries, mostly couples, but a few singles. And so we took over the job as Western Field Director, and each summer we would usually have a mission conference, and I think it's about 30 years ago now that we had a conference, and I don't know who I had for speaker for the conference for that particular field, but I thought at the end of the conference we usually had a communion service, and I wanted to lead in that communion service, and I thought I'll try to do that. And as we prepared for that conference, we had to fly some of the missionaries out at least part way, and then they could drive to Lac La Biche, just straight north of us, where the conference was at, which was originally started out as a Bible school, for a native Bible school for that mission. And I was praying and leafing through the 4 Gospels and asking the Lord to give me something helpful, something different, something encouraging for those missionaries that would be at that conference. We expected everyone in that field to come to the conference. And it was not, didn't seem to be coming. And then I would read through again. Then all of a sudden, I found it. There were 5 bees in that upper room where Jesus was with His disciples, sharing with them what He wanted them to do. Did you know that? There were 5 bees at that upper room at that meal, and I share with you now what those 5 bees are. There are some good bees and there are some bad bees, but I'll share with you these 5 bees. 5 large bees before the lost, when Christ would die on the cruel cross. The 12 came with a sense of doom as they ascended the stairs to the upper room. The Messiah arrived in his robe arrayed. He knew already he had been betrayed. The first bee is out. Its sting was dread. But the Lord reached out and took the bread. 2 bees now. And the Lord stood up, and his head did bow. He prayed for himself, and he prayed for his ranks, and he ended up with a prayer of thanks. With the bread in hand, he began to break. 3 bees now. And the Lord said, "Take. This is my body." It's a symbol true. I'm giving it up to be broken for you. The feast went on, the fellowship sweet. They all took bread, and they all did eat. After that, the cup. Probably didn't look like this, but the Lord said, "This is my body." And that's not quite how he said it. He said, "This is the New Testament in my blood." And with tears in his eyes that came like a flood, he gave him the cup that resembled the blood. 5 large bees had buzzed the room. His time had come, and all too soon. As we meet here now in love and union, we come to him in this communion. And that's what the Lord gave me. I didn't get that last part just right. But this is the book that I wrote, and if any of you want one, see me outside the church, and I will. I think I have some in my car, and there's a lot more stories in there about what the Lord has done for us. I'm glad Pastor Ron isn't here because I thought I maybe had gone over my 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Ron. Thank you very much. You can tell he's had a life. And he's lived it, and he's felt it. That was good. We have now a second member, testimonial story by Mr. James Ellis. I call him Jimmy, sometimes Sir James. Welcome up, Jim. He's got his tie on today in case you haven't noticed.
Good morning, everyone. I think everyone here knows me. I've been around a while. Been 24 years in September we've lived in Delbert, my wife and I, and I'm pleased to have my daughter here. It was her 43rd birthday on Thursday, and she's up visiting some friends in Joffrey with her boyfriend Paris. He's here as well. And I'd like to welcome you all to Delbert Gospel Church. Now, you can probably not tell from me at this point in time, but when I was a young man, I was kind of a speed demon. I had this series of motorcycles, and I remember when I was 22 years old, I was looking for myself. I didn't know the Lord. I believed that there was a creator because I wasn't that dense. But, you know, I had a habit of drinking a little too much beer, and I really liked to go fast. So I had this 750 motorcycle, and my son, who's now, he's going to be turning 48 this fall, he was just a wee little fella. He wasn't even 2 years old yet. And so I putz around with him on this motorcycle up and down the driveway, which made his mom quite nervous, but it was all okay. And one time, well, we lived about the same distance down a similar road as the 595 from the city and in Ontario. And I'd been out helping a friend of mine move that I'd worked with. So I was returning. It was about, I'd say 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And the sun was starting to go down. And this nice straight road was just, you know, begging me to open the throttle on this bike. How many here ever rode a motorcycle? Raise your hands. Oh, wow, okay, so you guys all know what I'm talking about then. This bike was an old bike. It was a 1974. Of course, this was in 1978, I believe, and late 1978. And so I had a nice clear road. There was no traffic, so I just opened her right up, and the speedometer went right up over 120. And that was, of course, in those days, miles per hour. So you got a picture of me. I'm just, you know, really on the throttle, and every time I hit a little bump on the road, you know, then I'm airborne. That's really fun. You know, and you're not even touching the pavement, just flying literally. It was a lot of fun. And of course, I was young and maybe, you know, a little reckless and maybe not so bright about certain things. And so I'm having a great time, and I'm coming down the road. And then I'm facing one of these intersections. We don't have any around here like this, but I'm sure you've seen them. They flash yellow one way, right? And then red the other way. Okay, so I'm driving towards the yellow, right? So I got nothing to slow down for, right? And there's a car coming towards me, and they're making a left-hand turn right in front of me. Now, this all happens pretty quick at 120 miles an hour, right? And so I'm barreling down the highway. This guy's turning in front of me. Oh, I figure out lots of time. But they decided they were going to stop their car in the middle of the intersection, in the middle of their turn. And it was just like in the movies. Everything slowed down. Time just kind of slowed right down. It was really interesting because I could see the driver of the car and his bottle of beer like this. And the car was full of guys. They were all out on tour, I suppose. And I guess they all had bottles of beer. And then I was just like, I wasn't there, and then I was there. And all I had time to do was to lean the bike to the left, so I just missed the back end of their car. Well, I ended up on the lawn of this big farm off to the left because I couldn't steer around them on the pavement. So I was going too fast still. And so I'm on this lawn. Now you get the picture. Lawns are kind of slippery when you're on a motorcycle. Not a good thing, right? And so I'm trying to get back on the highway. So I lean the bike over to my right, and now I'm at right angles to the highway. The highway's this way, my bike's this way, and it's starting to go down like this. Well, any of you who've ever ridden a bike know that at this point, this biker doesn't have a chance. Now, to top things off, at the end of the yard is a big row of oak trees. Now these oak trees are pretty old because they're about this diameter, about like that big around. And I can see this coming, and I know what's going to happen. And my bike starts to slide right out from under me. And I don't even have a chance to get my leg out from under it. I'm going down. And didn't have any time to think of anything except, you know, I'm dead. And I was hopeless at that point. I had no, can't describe to you how that felt. But like as I said, it seemed like time had slowed right down. And then all of a sudden, it was like the old days when they used to cut and splice films. It's the only way I can describe it. It's like somebody had cut the film right there, and I was all of a sudden on my side of the highway going the direction I was going in at 50 miles an hour. And there was no explanation for it. It's physically impossible to do this. Like I've been riding bikes, you know, all my life. Since I was a young kid, like 14. And I've dropped a lot of motorcycles, you know, in the gravel pits and all kinds of places. And I know for a fact that there's, like I was a good motorcycle driver, but nobody is that good. Evel Knievel couldn't have saved that. And, you know, and he broke a lot of bones too, but, you know, it was amazing. It was really amazing that that could happen to somebody. And that was the first time in my life that God had reached out and literally touched me. He picked that bike up that was sideways and going down and stuck it back on the highway in the right direction. I pulled over to the side of the road and shook for 5 minutes. And when I pulled over to the side of the road, I looked in my mirror and that car was still there in the intersection back there. It was 5 more years before I came to know the Lord. But I'll tell you, you know, I don't know what your experience has been, but there's been various times throughout the rest of my life. It's been over 40 years since I got saved, 42 years. And there's been times when doubts have come. You know, I've had times of loss, times of depression, things like that. And the enemy's always there to try and, you know, shove those doubts down your throat and make you turn away. And every time that's happened to me, I think back to that moment when God cut and spliced that film. And, you know, that gives me more hope than anybody could ever have. It's like, I know, it's not my imagination, it wasn't an hallucination, it was right in my face, and there's no way around it, there's no other explanation for it. God was right there for me. And at the time, and like for years, I couldn't figure out why would he do that. And I guess someday I'll see him face to face and he will tell me. And since then, he's always been there for me. And that, I hope that testimony will bless you at times when you've had doubt, have your doubts, as it has me. And that's my hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Sir James. We have Dorothy Nielsen, and she's going to come up and read us Psalm 23. I got to know Dorothy this last year. Got to know her dad, George Haskell, a little bit. He's been around a long time. In fact, he was around when this church was kind of put on the ground here. So, welcome, Dorothy. Only got a shot. Okay.
Psalm 23, a psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
That is just there in case you get tired of looking at me and then you can wonder before you drift off to sleep, what's that thing up there for?
Well, I thought you were going to play guitar for us.
Not on the agenda. Well, we've heard Ron talk about hope. Jim talked about hope. Dorothy's read about hope. And I guess I'm carrying on with a little bit about hope. I'm not a preacher. It's been, nope, never did this in my life, so here we go. The topic today I want to talk about is moving from despair to Christian hope. Oftentimes in this world we're told about secular hope, but I want to move past that framework into Christian hope. Is there hope? As my note said, there'd be a very quiet response from the audience. Is there despair?
There's lots of that.
And that's what my note said, it'd be a little bit louder. So despair comes from disappointment, which basically comes from unmet needs and expectations. We're expecting something, it doesn't get there, we get disappointed, we get sad. And when it happens over and over again, or to a magnitude that's very large, we wind up moving into the point of despair. Despair is real and certainly not any fun. People talk about depression being that little black dog that sits on your shoulder all the time trying to drag you down. And I see despair as that little black dog with teeth. He's angry, he's mean. It's not a fun place to be. When we get overwhelmed, we wind up with a bunch of reactions. Typically call them distortions, maybe not the best plans, but that's where we wind up. We can wind up with anger, we can wind up with withdrawal, we can wind up with gutting it up and just working through it, we can shut our minds down. Those reactions aren't terribly productive. One thing about despair is sometimes we like to wear it like a badge. Oh, I had this happen to me. Oh, yeah, but I have this happened, this happened, this happened. It's like diseases and injuries. Sometimes you're hurting and you want to share your pain with somebody. You get 30 seconds out of your pain and you wind up with a day and a half of their history of pain. Despair can be like that too. You hurt and you want to vent a little bit. You don't know where to go, and if you try venting, you just wind up feeling worse than where you started. I think of Job, written in the scripture about the middle of the book, an old book. He had everything. Thousands of this, thousands of that, 10,000 of those, kids traveling from home to home, feasting on a regular basis. What more could he want? Well, he got spied. Wasn't global maps or anything like that, but I think Satan kind of said to God, hey, there's Job. Take away all this stuff. See how happy he is now. Well, he took away all the sheep, the goats, the cattle, the kids, and Job was in pain. And for about 30 chapters, his friends show up and try to comfort him, talking to him about secular hope and pointing the finger at him. You must have done something wrong. It's all your fault. You can get better, just try harder. Didn't work for Job. He got more into despair, such to the point he's actually almost, let's say, shouting at God. And toward the end of the book, God comes to him and says, Job, did you make those mountains? Did you make the sky? Did you make the stars? And Job was wise enough to say, no, I didn't. I better keep my mouth shut. And as Job was restored to the Lord blessed him with more goats, if that's a blessing, with more camels, more sheep. Kids came, and life went on for Job. There is a story of hope. I'll call that Christian hope. There's also another story of not so good hope. Some of you know this particular song, and I'll just mention the writer of it, Trent Reznor, with the band 9 Inch Nails, and Johnny Cash sang it about 2002. And when I heard it the first time, I thought, this is dark. But coming from the man in black, that's what you'd expect. And these aren't the exact words, but it goes to the expression. I hurt myself today to see if I could feel. The needle makes a hole, and I fail in pain. Only pain is real. And as the addict is shooting himself up, he says, "Welcome, my best friend." And he remembers some of the other people who have died and gone away. And the words in the song that stick with me is, "What have I become in my empire of dirt? What have I become in my empire of dirt?" And I think that's a really good question, a question full of despair. And if you just had simple hope, let's see how that would go. Everything works out for good. Don't sweat it. Just how it is. Deal with it. Suck it up, princess. Put on your big girl pants and keep on going. Only the winners count. A different sort of notion. There's psychology books and counselors. But what they lack, because we call them secular help, is they have no God notion in them. They're trying to do their best without God. And we find in life that that doesn't always work very well. Again, I'm not a preacher. I'm not preaching. I'm just reflecting on some of my thoughts and some of my journey through life. Usually we think of ourselves as despair victims. Somebody did something and it hit me. Ooh, it hit me. But oftentimes we're in despair because we've done things to others. We're the perpetrators of somebody else's despair. I think back to a Thanksgiving meal at the house way long ago, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago. Sitting at the table, and somebody at the table says, "Well, we should all say something we're thankful for." This kid says this, and this kid says this, and then it comes to my turn, and I said nothing. It's not even that I sat there and said nothing. I said nothing. I'm not happy for anything. I think there was some roots of despair that have never been challenged or put to bed. What a Thanksgiving present to leave to your kids? Nothing. The old man don't even like me. Family would go to church, and I might show up at Christmas and Easter. Yeah, I know these guys. Well, he's sitting in church, but I know that guy. He's not really a church guy, and always find an excuse to not have it affect me. And my teenage daughter would say, "Dad, why don't you come to church?" And I thought I was real clever. I said, "I'm not ready yet." Didn't want to slam the door, but I'm just not ready yet. How did that work out for me? Not so good. Not so good. Another element of despair I've carried for a while is my mom was sick in a nursing home, well into her 80s, health is declining, not long to live, in a wheelchair, can't really eat, can't really talk, can't do much of anything for herself. And I've gone to visit, and I've come down from the building, going to catch a cab, and the voice comes into my head, "Tell your mom you love her." No. The voice comes again, "Tell your mom you love her." No. How hard my heart had become that I couldn't even say those words. I've heard people say everything works together for good, and I really believe it. Oh, okay. I would say not so true, but you can't really say it to their face because you want to elevate a conversation. In a secular world where it's all man-made and man-driven, where is the perfect hope? And again, we mentioned some of this. Deal with the hand you're dealt. It is what it is. It's all fate, destiny, in the stars. If that's how you want to live, I don't really envy that, and I know what that's like, and it's not good. We want to read today Scripture of Romans 8:28. You're welcome to look it up for me in case I'm making a mistake. And it goes on to say, "And we know that all things work together for good." Oh, there it is. That's I'll quit reading now. All things work together for good. Close the book and I'm done. Just wait for the goodness to follow. Wait, it doesn't say that. And we know all things work together for good to them that love God. Oh, well, that's all right then. It's all going to work out. It's all going to just come. Oh, I'm not done yet. Then we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. Oh, you mean God has a hand in this? What's my relationship with God? I'm not even connected to him. Why should I expect God to have everything work out good for me when I don't love him and I don't plan on living according to his purpose? I would say, don't expect much. I enjoyed Jim's story. In the moment, Jim had no right to expect anything good to come from the incident on the motorbike. But God had a plan for Jim, and he tells us that story today. So again, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. To me, that's the Christian hope. And oftentimes you read the Bible, and you read a verse, and somebody's developed a whole theology around it, and you're looking for other verses that talk the same way, and you can't find them. But that verse you can find many, many times. Philippians 1:6, being confident of this very thing, that he which began a good work in you will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. But as he which hath called you is holy, so you be holy in all manner of your conversation. Timothy, who hath saved us, called us not according to our works, but according to his own purpose and grace. From what I get from those verses is I can see the difference between Christian hope and being left on your own, tough guy trying to make it all work out. God has a purpose. When Jesus was on earth, the rich prince came to him and says, God, what do I have to do to be saved? Actually, he said, Jesus, what do I got to do to be saved? And the Lord said to him, sell all your stuff and follow me. And the guy says, oh, I got stuff. Maybe I'll go home and think about it. Another fellow came along. He says, I'd like to follow you, but I'm kind of busy. My old man died. We got to plan a funeral. We got company coming from all far places. They got to prepare the feast, and on it went. And Jesus didn't say, well, look me up when you're done. He said, let the dead bury the dead. In essence, there's more important things to life sometimes than just taking care of life. I'm reminded of Nicodemus. And this is in the days before texting, but let's put it into a modern context. Jesus is there and he's got a group text going, and he gets a message from Nicodemus. What must I do to be saved? And Jesus texts back, you must be born again. Oh, Nicodemus texts back, what do you mean? I'm supposed to crawl inside and be born again? LOL. No. Jesus says it's a spiritual rebirth. Spiritual rebirth, a change. I draw comfort from the notion of the verse in the sense that we've all held little kids slipping and trying to hold them from falling, and we know their grip is not very strong. When your confidence is in God, you don't worry about your grip. He's got the grip. He's holding on. Do your best to hold on, and he is holding on. So back to my story. Thanksgiving, I'm not happy. For about 5 years, I've been coming to church, learning slowly, step by step. My daughter had to go a year and a half ago for brain surgery in Calgary. Stick whatever they stick into the brain with them little scissors and take out whatever tumor things had to come out. But what a joy to take her hand and say, let's pray together. That was good. That was good. The Christian hope is God-centered. And it's centered in God's big picture. We want things fast these days. Fast, fast, fast. And know what I'm not trying to minimize despair. We all have them. We all have pains we carry for decades and decades and decades. And we know the sound of despair. The sounds we make when we're alone and hurting. And we don't recognize the sounds we make. As close as I can come, it's like a cow trying to push out a way oversized calf. And if you've never heard those sounds, we make those sounds too when we have too much despair. So a fella in church comes to the men's Bible study and he says always, what's the application of this? Yeah, we're reading the Bible. What's the application? Okay. My question to you then is, do you really want to go through life without knowing God's hope? You just want to ride it out as best you can. Don't believe anything. Do what you want. Believe what you want. Everybody else is just in the way as you live your life. Do you really want that? I said yes for 40 years. I did my own thing, attracted by life. Not so good. No, not so good. You can do better. So where does it begin? Where does it begin? At some point we have to ask God, say to God, ouch, I'm in trouble. I need you. I need to be saved. I need to be saved. And from that point we open our heart and open our arms and we learn to submit to Jesus. We submit to the will of God as He interacts with us. From that point of submission, we learn to walk. We learn to study the Word, grow in the Word, meet with other believers, get educated, and from that, we learn to serve. It's one thing to be saved living in a basement, but what about to be saved and in service? It arises two questions, kind of. First one, Nicodemus said, what must I do to be saved? Good question. How do we know Nicodemus was saved? He could answer this question. What must I do to serve? So here is Nicodemus asking, what do I do to be saved? Must be born again. He's one of the guys that took Jesus' body down from the cross, carried it to this tomb, wrapped it in all the spices and ointments and in the funeral clothes. I think that's a good testimony of how his life changed and he could serve. So just for fun, I brought this up. I don't know if anybody looked at it, but here it is. I hope I can learn to play this thing. But I don't plan on practicing or learning any music things, notes and chords. I hope I can play this thing. To me, that's a kind of a feeble hope. If you look at the top here, there's a little tuner for the strings. If you're really going to get serious, you kind of got to... That doesn't sound too good. But if you're willing to ask the Lord into your life and submit, get your strings tuned, learn what it feels like to play some sounds, learn how to adapt and build, follow the instructions of the Scripture, you might actually play a song one day that's going to do somebody some good. So that was the point of the guitar. Not that I can play it, and if I just want to hope I can play it, it'll never happen. To summarize some of the things I've said then, we're all given a chance, a choice of the circumstances that come our way. Do all things work together for good? I don't want to bet on that. Do all things work together for good to them that love God and according to His purpose? And it really could say very easily, according to God's good purpose. Does God have a bad purpose for us? No. But that's why we run from Him sometimes. We just don't trust. We have to trust in His good purpose. Just close in a short prayer. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. To me, that's Christian hope. We're here, the Lord's on our side, we look to Him, we walk to Him, we have hope. We have hope. And as much as I never told my mom at the end that I loved her, when she was about my age, she was planting a little evergreen tree that was perhaps this tall. And I said, "You're an old lady. You'll never see that tree grow." She looked to me and said with wisdom, "As long as I'm planting, I have hope